Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome, everybody. It is time for the Books That Make You show, and I'm your host, Desiree Duffy. And today we're talking about books that make you feel like you're whisked away on an epic fantasy adventure. It is a place where time travel, twisted history, and secret societies collide. The Devil Pulls the Strings is about Boone, who has a debilitating panic attack episodes, gut-wrenching guilt, and he's also got a Wendigo haunting him since the age of 6. And now, apparently, a cursed Immortal wants to destroy New York City on a Saturday night, but all Boone wants to do is keep a promise to a friend, by the way, who he almost killed last Sunday. So this sounds like quite an adventure. It is written by our guest today, J.W. Zarek. His book is a BookFest award-winning book, and it is set in modern-day Wentzville, Missouri, New York City, and 1813 Genoa, Italy. Oh, that's where the Italian connection is coming from. Now, this weaves bromance and Slavic mythology, secret societies, time travel, and so much more. JW has done a lot of things with his life, and he is not shy to tell you about some of the bad guys he's helped catch for the government. He's also taught English conversation in Japan, and he can analyze, apparently, anyone's handwriting. He has sailed through the Suez Canal twice and hunted pirates in the Persian Gulf. And while he worked at the FBI, his thesis on red flag behaviors found in relationships earned him an invitation to present a paper at the first annual Forensics Congress in China. And that is what led him to write his award-winning book, Naughty or Nice? Whose list are you on? Which is one of many, many books that he's written. So we're going to get into all of that. JW, let me bring you on. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Desiree. Thanks for having me. I appreciate this day and this time.
All right. We're going to have some fun together. I have a feeling. So can you tell me about The Devil Pulls the Strings? Give us the setup.
Yeah, way back when, I heard this amazing rumor about Niccolò Paganini. He was the world's first rock star of his day, played the violinist, and the rumor was that his mother gave his soul to the devil to make him the world's greatest violinist. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, imagine a world where that's true. And that set me on the path for writing The Devil Pulls the Strings, because beyond that, I grew up reading fantasies, science fiction, Edgar Allan Poe, Stephen King, so many different wonderful authors. But I wanted with this book to honor the hero's journey. But I also grew up listening to a bedtime story from my grandma Yetta and tell me about Baba Yaga. And she's like the mother of all witches. So if you think of Hansel and Gretel, hey, and around the globe, if you look to do research, all cultures have witches and women of wisdom with Yaga in the name and variations. So the only problem is today's day and age, many people get many things wrong about Baba Yaga. She's not just two-dimensional as we see in video games and movies, which is great, but it leaves so much off the table. So listening to the stories for my grandma to honor her, I wanted to infuse in a modern day setting all these stories about Baba Yaga and other Slavic mythology because when you look at the fairy tales, they all had morals to share, things that were relevant. So when your dad, the woodcutter, says, don't go into the woods, there's an evil witch that will eat you. No, they just don't want you getting lost. But the stories were a great way. So what if we had in a modern setting these fairy tales? So that's what this does. And we look at Boone Daniels. He's a 22-year-old small-town musician, debilitating panic attacks. And to qualify and build on what you said, a Wendigo is just an evil spirit. Evil spirit, real simple. Either you consumed flesh or you were a shaman and wanted to do naughty things. And basically you become this 14 to 16 foot terrifying beast that's emaciated with the skin, dissected skin hanging from the bones, antlers, and you can never satisfy your hunger, so you're forever on patrol for food. But when a Wendigo finds you, it doesn't stop till it gets you. And yes, you can kill Wendigos if you take out their heart, and that's how you release the person inside. But nonetheless, poor little Boone, when he was 6, just wanted to pet a horse, ran across a field, the horse kicked him. Oops. But when that horse kicked him, it gave him amazing musical abilities in that people have eidetic memory, where you see something and you can memorize it. Well, Boone's a little different. You also have a different sensory thing, and I'm blanking. I'm sorry, but for Boone, when the horse kicked him, it triggered something where he didn't just get this eidetic memory, but he could, any song he hears, he instantly knows the whole song, but more important, he knows everything that the author who wrote or composed the song feels and goes through. And it also gives him visions and everything else. So this serves or impedes him throughout his whole story. But basically, in a nutshell, for the story is, hey, Boone, he's working at a Ren fair with his friends in Wentzville, Missouri. There's not a lot going on in this small town, but the closest thing that's there is the St. Louis Renaissance Festival. So invariably, people end up there. Working all kind of jobs, as did Boone too. And his best friend already was a knight there, and he eventually became a knight. And in the big day of their big joust, where Boone's getting his chance to go against his best friend, Flynn Michaels, as their horses are about to cross, and Boone's getting his big shot, somebody blows an air horn. Flynn's horse bolts, throws him onto Boone's lance, ends up in the hospital. And in the hospital, Flynn's like, look, we have this gig. It's our band's big break in New York City. I need you to go take it. And Boone's never been anywhere. And worried about that Wendigo, which I'll cover too, coming after him. But all these things, but he has to keep a promise, because you know what? That's what you do. And for those that get it, for friendship and bromance, you do whatever it takes. For the Wendigo, since I'm jumping around, but just know with the Wendigo, hey, Boone was with his parents and a cave opened up. He wanted to explore. Oops, a Wendigo came out, wanted to go after him and his family. His family stopped, or at least went after the Wendigo. And then Boone, all he knows is the cave closed up. And there he was left with that, got raised by his aunt in Wentzville, Missouri. But the whole thing is that Wendigo in his dreams or in dark spaces likes to show up and finish the job. Boone's been lucky this so far, but he has scars and everything.
Sounds like he's got a lot going on. Okay, there's a lot for us to talk about here. So let's back up a little bit, because you talk about Paganini and his music and the violin and the mythology and the fact that you're doing a retelling. And I just can't be helped but struck by the fact that this sounds like something that was retold, just 20 or so years ago, Charlie Daniels' band and The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
No.
So is that... No,
it's funny that is what I've heard that too. No. So with Niccolo Paganini, when I touched upon that rumor that his mother gave his soul to the devil to make him the world's greatest violinist, Paganini was the world's greatest rock star of his day in 1792 through the early 1800s. And he truly was long, thin. He had pale skin. He had Malforce syndrome, where these are elongation of fingers and bones and joints. It allowed him to play parts of the violin that other people couldn't in his day. And he was also played up on the drama and dressed in black. So when people would see him, it all fed into that selling the soul to the devil thing. And people would say they could even see the devil to the side of him when he played. And for poor Paganini, when he got sick when he was older, the church wanted to do last rites for him, and he got better. So he's like, I don't need it. So the church was like, what? So then when he did die, unfortunately, the church would not let him get buried in a cemetery, and he had to wait 5 years before they could petition the Pope to let him get buried in Genoa, Italy. And it's just crazy. So all of that feeds in. So imagine if you had 3 of his songs and you could combine them to make a summoning spell to summon the devil. That could be bad. Well, poor Boone, all he wants to do is keep a promise to his friend to get to New York City. And when he gets to New York City, he steps out of the cab to meet his contact, this academic Professor Stone. As he steps out of the cab, he hears a scuffle from above. He grabs sheet music. And then as he's grabbing the sheet music, this beautiful French girl holding a violin walks right into him because her face is buried in his cell phone. Next thing you know, Professor Stone, that's the contact Boone's supposed to meet, he lands splat and a piano all next to him. Guys start firing weapons at him, trying to get him, and they jump in a cab to get away. And that's what sets Boone on the adventure where he uncovers this plot to use Paganini's music to summon the devil, which may end up destroying New York City and possibly the world. And there's Boone just in the middle of that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in fairy tale and mythology retellings, we have those throughout history and they're retold over and over again. So what is it about retellings in the mythology? And you've mentioned the Wendigo. What is it about bringing these back into this modern day fairy tale that, really compelled you?
Aside from, honoring my grandma and showing the many facets of Baba Yaga, she's not just a two-dimensional evil character. She can be the antagonist. She can be the mentor, the helper. Even after her stories, yes, she may still eat the hero anyway, but she's a supernatural being. She's immortal. She can't die, but you can trap her, which happens in the story. And what's relevant is she controls the weather, controls animals, has magical items. So in all the stories of her that my grandma shared with me, it's always kids having the evil stepmother or what have you, and getting where they have to meet Baba Yaga, and Baba Yaga having to help them. And so in this story, to be able to put that of the fairy tales, because really fairy tales, the morals in them resonate even in our DNA. And what I mean by that is, you may not have grown up with the fairy tale, but when you hear the ones that are still just have staying power and here today, be it Hansel and Gretel, or you can go for any fairy tale that you resonate with, there's morals in there you instantly connect with that resonate with you. So bringing those fairy tales in a day, everybody's watched movies, read books that just, maybe you turned the channel, maybe you walked out of the movie theater, put the book down and never picked it up again. I wanted to give you that, where there were morals of, no matter what's thrown at you, you're here to keep a promise. That's very important. And staying hopeful. This book is still hopeful, and you have to read the book to understand why. But the point is, for Boone, he gets thrown in circumstance after circumstance. Having Baba Yaga. Now, Baba Yaga, for story, Slavic mythology, sometimes she's appears as a crazy homeless woman, or maybe a village grandma, babushka, or three sisters, or a supernatural being. So to be able to take all the many facets of Baba Yaga and put her in the story is relevant. Same with Paganini. A lot of people don't know more about him, but there are a lot of rumors out there about him that we get to hear. And then all the other colorful characters in there. A Wendigo, it's just what it is. Wendigo is not Slavic mythology. It's American Indian mythology, but it's still relevant for Boone growing up in where it would be Missouri for all intents and purposes, and why. And as you read the story, it all unfolds. But to put this all together with the cast of colorful characters, yes, it was relevant. It's Boone's journey, and that's what it is, told through his eyes. And that's relevant because as he sees and experiences things, the readers see and experience things. And no, not everything is revealed. And for Baba Yaga, in stories, she called all the males the protagonist Ivan. It was just her little thing. And for those that are familiar with the stories, they'll know that. Boone does have what also is Russian blood in him. So that's also another reason, because a lot of the stories of Baba Yaga are found in Slavic mythology, Russia.
Yeah, and you make a really good point there, because a lot of fairy tales, take Little Red Riding Hood, for example, they can trace that back. It has origins that go all over not only Europe, but even down into Africa and China, etc. So that's great. I love that you're pulling all of that in. I'd love to get into the main character a little bit more. You talk about Boone and having these debilitating panic attacks and gut-wrenching guilt. Can you talk about creating this main character and giving him that depth?
Yeah, well, real simple. Going back to when he was 6, Boone already feels tremendous guilt because after the Wendigo attack occurred, his parents were gone, his dog Berkeley was gone, and it's not known, did the parents die? Are they alive? But there's Boone going with it. That creates a sense of guilt with you. I mean, you're 6. No, he's not responsible for his parents' death. However, 6-year-old doesn't know that. And many of us that have different guilts we associate with, it can carry through our lives, that guilt, no matter how old you are, no matter how much therapy you may go through, there's these residuals. Now, bringing to current day, he has his big break where he's going to joust his best friend, and then he almost accidentally kills him. So he's never gotten over resolving about this Wendigo attack. But now in the hospital, when he's sitting there 3 days after the surgery, and he doesn't know if his friend's going to live or die, and he's like, great, now I'm responsible for this too. So all of that fuels in. And Boone, he's not academic smart at all. He lives by the seat of his pants. So things happen to him, like the Wendigo and this, and he just rolls with that. And that's why he's able, as he goes through these extraordinary circumstances, he is able to navigate as best as he can. Doesn't mean he wins or overcomes each circumstance he encounters, but at least it's the reason why he's able to navigate. And that's why.
And is the struggle that he's enduring, is this something that you've personally gone through? Are you pulling from your own life experiences?
No, I've currently not being stalked by a Wendigo or any evil spirits. So that's good. And no, it's not that. It's just forensic psychology is my academic background. And I've always been fascinated with psychology and catching naughty folk for the government. You get into the minds of a lot of individuals. So a lot of things over the years, just you get to experience or see through other people's eyes. And that is the reason. And the other thing not mentioned is when Boone is in these tight spaces, the dark spaces, he has panic attacks. Mm-hmm. And when a panic attack happens and the Wendigo shows up, that could be a challenge that you have to get through because Wendigo could kill you. So this is the things Boone deals with. And it's just even one thing's of value in the book and I had to do a lot of research to speak to different experts, but when you have a panic attack, there are ways for people to breathe, to get through that moment by taking deep breaths and using counting and focusing on the counting. And in there, that's introduced. And I had readers who I didn't realize that they would connect with that, tell me, thank you for putting that in your story because that helped them. And I was like, oh, cool. So these are all these things. So with the character, it's just that. I mean, by day, he's a handyman in his aunt's trailer park. And then on the weekends, and when the rent fair's around, he gets to do odd jobs there. And with his best friend Flynn Michaels has a really cool bar band called the Village Idiots. And the Village Idiots, because they do rent fairs also. And the great thing is the band's just won this amazing contest to go play in New York City on Saturday at the Dragon and Nymphs annual charity ball. So this is all setting everything up for that.
Yeah. It's a great setup and a great story. And I don't want you to give too much away because people need to read it, of course. So, and you're touching on something that's really important, I think, because the reason that we read, the reason anybody picks up your book or any book is because we want to experience the world through that character's eyes. And if somebody has experienced panic attacks and you're touching them, that's the power of story, right? That's the power of characters. And that's why we read. And it's also why we write. So I'm curious about, Joe, your connection to the story and the things that you've done in the past. You talk a little bit about your time working for the FBI and you analyze handwriting and all of that. So give us a little bit more of your personal background, if you could, and tell us about what you do when you catch these bad guys for the FBI.
So, I love music, always have. Play a mean kazoo. Really, I can jam with the kazoo. But with the music, I've always loved music. Yeah, I play piano too, but of infusing in this story, I infuse many musical pieces. And I also even hired for the audiobook a guitarist and a violinist, because Paganini played guitar, violin, and so the what would be the Devil's Sonata, the big summoning piece, they've written those pieces for that to capture the essence of Paganini in there. So I wanted to infuse that. And what's really nice, readers telling me that they actually, while they were reading and a song was noticed or referenced, they would pull it up to listen as they read. And it gave them this newfound awareness and love of classical music and the other artists that play. And I was like, oh, that's totally unexpected. I love, again, science fiction, fantasy, to infuse those elements. Yes, at the core, this was an epic fantasy adventure, but it hits all the marks of an urban fantasy. So I'm not going to argue if people like the genre. So the people who like different genres, if you like fantasy, there are the elements there with the supernatural creatures, thrillers as well. If you like science fiction, in time travel, I also love physics and science because I have the forensic science background. I wanted to infuse with the time travel things using real world known elements and features, such as time crystals. Time crystals are miniature particles. When you get them in proximity to each other, they change the space around them. So if you get enough of them, hey, why not be able to change or open portals through time? But even using wormholes. And the one thing many books don't show on time travel or when people go through wormholes or enter different dimensions. And on that chapter where Boone is going through with what would be the love interest, Safaraju, they go through, and to capture that experience of what they're feeling and the sensations and what they're experiencing, you don't see that in other books, because I've looked. I've tried to find how the authors capture. In most other books, it's just something opens, a person goes through, or they're automatically transported there, but there's no qualifier of what they went through or gone through. And with my editor, we went back and forth 4 times before we got the articulation just right, as Boone's being pulled through this small, minute place. And when he travels through time, again, it's like, he's like, son of a Jolly Roger. Professor Wickham told me not to go through the wrong portal. And so all these little things play in. And even with other things, I grew up in New York. So I set the story for a bulk of it in New York City. But even though I grew up there, when I was writing and researching, I spent a good 2.5+ years doing the research before I even wrote the draft. And then, even though I was in the middle of my draft, I went to New York City, dragged my wife with me, and I made her go to everywhere the protagonist goes so I could step out of a cab and see everything that the protagonist would see, so I could transfer that into the page. And for all authors, yes, when you're writing and researching your books, go to the places you can that you want to write about. It gives the readers and you a totally complete different experience. And if you can't go there, hire somebody in the area who can at least answer your questions about the area that you can put in. An example, when I stepped out of a cab, there was a Japanese restaurant in the corner of this place where the Professor Stone, Gig's contact is, and you could smell the garbage that hadn't been collected yet. And also hobo urination and dog poo and other things. And had I not gotten out of a cab to see and experience that, there's no way I could have entered that in the story and captured that well. But Boone also loves food. I love food. There's a scene where he's eating cookies with his love interest violin mentor, and he lets out a big Cookie Monster ogre burp. And all these things to capture, and I'm jumping around, but the point is to take those experiences and put them in. So in the story, Boone's all about food. He's all about music. I'm all about music, all about food. So I infused that, so everything happening to him has themes. And for him, he's also, just like I grew up with cartoons, with onomatopoeia. These are the sounds in action and motion. So Boone actually hears them and experiences them. So they're there too, and all these things carry through, and that's Boone's world.
Love it. Yeah. I love that immersive experience, and going to a place. You're right. Nothing beats going there and experiencing it, smelling the smells and feeling the feels. So can you tell us really quick about some of your other books as well? Because you are obviously a man of many talents and many interests. Can you talk about some of your other books?
Yeah. Okay. So the happiness code, Ray Bram and 20 so other authors, we all have happiness hacks that we use in our lives. And this bestseller, we share and show you what we use, happiness hacks that you can also incorporate too. And a quick one, real quick, just Buddha. He says happiness is a choice. Now, I've shortened his quote dramatically, but the point is, once you make a choice to be happy, all of a sudden things change. And that book is so timely because today's day and age, there's always things happening. Earthquake in Turkey, COVID, all these things everybody's just thrown with. To have happiness hacks people are using in their own lives to bring and create happiness. And happiness means something different to everybody. But the point is, that's relevant to be aware. You can look at all the different readers, authors, and whatever works for you, you can try. Now, the other book is Writer's Success Secrets. This is a best-selling book, also on the Wall Street Journal best-selling list, outsold Stephen King's On Writing memoir for a time period on Amazon. This is 21 best-selling authors who all share with you all the things that they did and what works for them. And this is a great reference book. So if you're an author, best-selling author, the point is you have 21 plus best-selling authors who are sharing the metrics they use and how they get best-selling placement on different platforms and what they do for marketing and what they do for research and feeling. All these things are so relevant. And my whole chapter is on all the things I wish I knew, because as a writer, I've easily spent 100,000+ over the years learning how to be a better writer. And I give tribute to Margie Lawson. She's a psychologist and author, and she teaches and trains other authors how to be best-selling authors, but she uses an emotion system, and she shows you where you need to have visceral reactions and a thought and an inner dialogue and why you need that. And if you have all of that, wow, it gets people wanting to turn the page. So I give homage, and I actually dedicated The Devil Pulls the Strings to Margie Lawson, because without her showing what she showed me and shared with me, the book wouldn't be where it is today. Basically, she did everything Margie Lawson shared and showed, amped up my writing with the emotional impact that everybody craves and clamors for. So with all those books, those are them. I've collaborated. I've given contributing material on authors' blogs and books. But what other questions do you have? If I have
tell us what's coming up in the future. Then what's the next project you're working on?
I got approached by different industry professionals that want to turn The Devil Pulls the Strings into a series on a premium subscription channel. So the adapted script I wrote that because I kept getting told, hey, we can get a script written for you for this much money, this much money, this much money, this much money. I said, I need to at least learn how to write a script. So when I'm working with people, so I wrote, and that script, the pilot episode script has won 6 awards, and now I'm doing revisions for the producer. So I don't know when that'll be launched. I still have red flags. My editor has given me all the chapters that I have to go through and revise. There's a children's book I always wanted to write, Bella Brown and the Missing Butterfly Locket. She helps her grandma find a missing butterfly locket. So there's a lot of things on the works, but I'm also still catching naughty folk for the government. And when I retire, I'll write full time. So that's everything. And on the side, I teach other authors how to maximize and position their book for maximum success. So anyway, that's
a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Tell people where they can go to find you online, your social media, and of course, find your books.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter, the website, https://JWZarek, ZAREK.com. YouTube, if you search for Misfits, not YouTube, excuse me. On Facebook, if you search for Misfits, you'll come up with the group I have. A lot of creatives are there who get to swap stories and do other interactions. And that's all. I only post feel-good information, videos, creatives, interactions there, because we need a good place to go to in the world in today's day and age. But you can find me Twitter, anywhere you search on my name, good or bad, it's all there.
I appreciate that. Joe, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been fun.
Thank you, Desiree. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. This was fun.
You bet. You bet. My name is Desiree Duffy. Thank you for being with us today on the Books That Make You show. To find out more about us, you can go to our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course on YouTube. Make sure that you are ringing that bell and subscribing and following us, and throw in a few comments and things too, because that engagement really, really helps the channel to grow. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.